Chinese AI says they were able to create things dirt cheap. How? By leveraging what they've taken from us, stolen from us, or leveraged from us.
A lot of new updates around DeepSeek. Welcome to the Friday Check.
Chinese app tore a $1 trillion hole in the US stock market.
Companies like NVIDIA, which makes the computer chips AI companies rely on.
There's now been
cost $6 million to develop. Now, to give you some sort of sense,
they're shuddering at the cost of DeepSeek's breakthrough.
This was the week that DeepSeek roiled the markets. The Chinese AI startup caused a tech sell-off that sent NVIDIA shares down 11% on the week.
Microsoft DeepSeek AI is out there that can run circles around very expensive established AI models. This massively efficient code that they figured out suddenly allows
DeepSeek AI costing just $5.5 million to train. Those are just the companies.
Welcome back. Welcome to Phantom Tech. Tackling a seismic shift in the world of technology, the release of China's open-source AI model, DeepSeek R1, has been described as nothing less than a Sputnik moment by Mark Andreessen, and for good reason. Just as the launch of Sputnik challenged assumptions about American technological dominance in the 20th century, DeepSeek R1 is forcing a reckoning in the 21st century. For years, many believed that the race for AI supremacy was firmly in the hands of established players like OpenAI and Anthropic. But with this breakthrough, a new competitor has not just entered the field, they've also seriously outpaced expectations. If you care about the future of AI innovation and global technological competition, you'll want to understand what DeepSeek R1 is, why it matters, and whether it's just a giant hoax or a legitimate game changer. The part that really upset the industry and sent the stocks of companies like NVIDIA and Microsoft reeling is that DeepSeek R1 reportedly meets or exceeds the performance of the best American AI models like OpenAI GPT-4, and they did it on the cheap, reportedly for under $6 million. When you compare that to the tens of billions already invested, if not more, to achieve similar results, not to mention the $500 billion discussion around Stargate, it's cause for alarm. China claims to have done this without access to the latest NVIDIA chips, which, if true, is akin to building a Ferrari in your garage out of spare Chevy parts. If you could put together a Ferrari in your shop on your own and it performed just as well as a regular Ferrari, what do you think that would do to Ferrari prices? It's a little bit like that. DeepSeek R1 is a new language model designed to offer performance that punches above its weight. Trained on a smaller scale, yet still capable of answering questions, generating texts, and understanding context. Its real advantage isn't just its capabilities, but how it has been built. DeepSeek is designed to be cheap, efficient, and surprisingly resourceful, leveraging larger foundational AI models like OpenAI's GPT-4 or Meta's Llama as scaffolding to create something much more compact and optimized. At its core, DeepSeek R1 is a distilled language model. Training a large AI model typically results in something massive. Hundreds of billions, if not trillions of parameters, consuming terabytes of data and requiring a data center's worth of GPUs just to function. But what if you don't need all that power for most tasks? That's where distillation comes in. You take a larger model like GPT-4 or the 671 billion parameter behemoth R1 and use it to train the smaller ones. It's like a master craftsman teaching an apprentice. Not every skill needs to be memorized, just the ones necessary to get the job done. By using larger models to guide its training, DeepSeek's creators have managed to compress the knowledge and reasoning capabilities of much bigger systems into something far smaller and more lightweight. The result is a model that doesn't need massive data centers to operate. You can run the smaller variants on a decent consumer-grade CPU or even a basic laptop. That's a game changer. The way this works is a bit like teaching by example. If you have a large model that knows everything about astrophysics, Shakespeare, and Python coding, instead of trying to replicate that raw computational power, DeepSeek R1 mimics the outputs of the larger model across a wide range of questions and scenarios. By carefully selecting examples and iterating through the training process, you can teach the smaller model to produce similar answers without needing to store all that raw information itself. It's like copying the answers without carrying the entire library. DeepSeek didn't just rely on a single large model for training. It used multiple AI sources, including some open source ones like Meta's Llama, to provide diverse perspectives and solutions. Think of it as assembling a panel of experts to train one exceptionally bright student. By combining insights from different architectures and datasets, DeepSeek R1 achieves a level of robustness and adaptability that's rare in such a small model. Since it's open source, any biases or filters built into the model should be discoverable in the publicly available weights, meaning there's less room to hide manipulations. In fact, one of my first tests was to ask DeepSeek what famous photo depicts a man standing in front of a line of tanks. It correctly answered the Tiananmen Square protest, explained the significance of the photo, the photographer, and even the censorship issues surrounding it. Of course, the online version might be completely different since I'm running it offline locally, and who knows what version they get within China, but the public version available for download seems solid and reliable. All of this dramatically lowers the barrier to entry for AI. Instead of requiring massive infrastructure or your own nuclear power plant to deploy a large language model, you could potentially get by with a much smaller setup. That's great news for smaller companies, research labs, or even hobbyists looking to experiment with AI without breaking the bank. In fact, I can run the very largest 671 billion parameter model, and it still generates more than 4 tokens per second. Even the 32 billion version runs nicely on MacBook Pros, and the smaller models run down to the Orin Nano for just $249. But there's a catch. Building something cheaply has risks. Smaller models often struggle with the breadth and depth of knowledge that larger ones possess. They're more prone to hallucinations, generating confident but incorrect responses, and they may not be as good at handling highly specialized or nuanced queries. Since they rely on training data from larger models, any biases or errors present in those models could trickle down into these smaller versions. DeepSeek R1's efficiency is impressive, but it highlights trade-offs. By focusing on cost and accessibility, it might not compete directly with the biggest players in cutting-edge capabilities. Instead, it carves out an important niche as a practical, cost-effective alternative. In some ways, this reminds me of the early days of personal computing. Back then, massive mainframes dominated, and then along came scrappy little PCs that weren't as powerful, but were good enough for a lot of work. Fast forward a few decades, and PCs revolutionized computing. DeepSeek might not be GPT-5, but it could pave the way for a more democratized AI landscape where advanced tools aren't confined to a handful of tech giants. The implications are huge. Imagine AI models tailored to specific industries, running on local hardware for privacy and control, or embedded in devices like smartphones and smart home hubs. The idea of having your own personal AI assistant, one that doesn't rely on a massive cloud backend, suddenly feels a lot more attainable. Of course, there are challenges ahead. DeepSeek and models like it will need to prove they can handle real-world tasks reliably, scale effectively, and continue to innovate in a space dominated by much larger competitors. But if history has taught us anything, it's that innovation doesn't always come from the biggest players. Sometimes all it takes is a fresh perspective and a willingness to do things differently. That's about all, peeps, for today. If you found this breakdown insightful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more deep dives into the latest tech trends. I'm just another Tech Phantom signing off from Phantom Tech. So, peace. Well, peeps, that's about all, but leaving you with one more point. Phantom Tech, your go-to source for tech that's cutting edge, insightful, and Phantom approved. What I've realized is that letting go of old PC parts is like discarding pieces of history. History we need to preserve. Not just for documentation's sake, but for your sake, for my sake, and For the sake of future innovation, people, imagine a future where we can compare the apples and oranges of technology side by side, unveiling the stories they tell, the progress they've made. I want to take you on that journey with me. I'm deeply passionate about technology, but here's the truth. Innovation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It thrives when we learn from the past, when we carry its lessons forward as a foundation for the breakthroughs of tomorrow. If we abandon our roots, we risk a future where progress stagnates, where competition stumbles, and where innovation stands still for a decade or more. This is phantom tech. We honor the past, celebrate the present, and push forward into the future together. And please don't forget to subscribe, peeps, or this is all for nothing. Phantom tech. So thanks everyone, and peace.